Hello, everybody. We are going to get right into it here. I don't really have any announcements about the class at this point. I think we're pretty good on resolving any of the issues we have with the integration in the learning management system as of late. So I think we're all good. If you all do have any problems, though, send me an email and we'll work through that together. I haven't heard too much from you all, so no news is good news when it comes to any kind of tech glitches that might be happening. So I will keep you all posted if there's anything like across the board that is affecting things like on a wider range or kind of across the board. But otherwise, if you all have individual issues that you're running into, just let me know. I'm going to get right into supply chains today. I am going to see if I can make this as short as possible, but let's get started. I'm going to jump off with a video. This explains supply chains very well. And so I think this is going to help bring some context to this. So let's go ahead and get started here. This video will run off YouTube. So I'm going to stop it every once in a while, because what I want to do is add some commentary so we don't actually deal with any
now we're setting out
like
to be
copyright
carbon neutral
issues
by 2050.
And so this is just kind of a background, since this is like for educational purposes. The copyright piece doesn't really apply here, but I'm still going to provide commentary just to keep it educational. All right, we'll get started here on this.
Hi, my name is Willie Shih, and I teach at the Harvard Business School. I'm going to talk to you today about what we have learned about supply chains from the global pandemic. What do we mean by a supply chain? I mean that entire string of producers and logistics providers that start all the way from the raw materials going all the way to the store. Now, sometimes when I ask people, hey, do you know where that product came from? They'll say, oh, I got it at Amazon, or I got it at Walmart, or I got it at the grocery store. Well, that's your personal supply chain. Okay, but we want to look farther back, going all the way to the raw materials and how did that get converted into products. Now, I'm going to tell this story starting with toilet paper. Well, you say, well, that's kind of funny. Well, when I heard this early in the pandemic about first Japan and Hong Kong.
So the context, as y'all know, is there was that toilet paper shortage during the pandemic, and all across the media there was talk about the supply chain issues, and this is all the supply chain's fault and things like that. So this is why the context kind of got started. A lot of people were having the same issues. They were hearing about supply chain, and so they were starting to connect the dots as far as like the importance of the supply chain, and then the mystery behind it started to be explained to the average consumer.
And then Singapore and Australia, people hoarding toilet paper. I said, well, this is the perfect thing to write a story about, because you really don't need to know a whole lot about toilet paper to envision what the supply chain would look like. Well, first of all, it's a product everybody understands, which is good. And the other thing we know about it is demand is pretty constant. It's not like there's seasons of the year when you consume more toilet paper, right? So stable demand. The next thing we know is it's not very expensive, okay, but it's actually takes up a lot of volume. So that means this product is not very tradable, right? Products that are tradable are ones that you can make far away from where they're consumed. You can ship them around the world, because for the amount of value they contain, shipping costs are a relatively small proportion. But toilet paper not being expensive and being kind of bulky to ship, what you really want to do is make it relatively close to where it's going to be purchased.
So yeah, these are all very important ideas as far as like the manufacturing process and how that ties into sales and selling. So as you recall, we talked about prior, basically like test marketing and doing test markets where they would release a product within a certain region of an area just to test it out to see its viability from a larger region. So they would actually, what he's describing here is talking about manufacturing the product close to where the customer is. That's kind of the same idea where if they had to change up a process a little bit to create a new flavor for Mountain Dew, for example, they would change that process up in a local area that was close to where the population that they wanted to do that test market would be.
For example, most countries are self-sufficient in toilet paper. China is the world's largest manufacturer of toilet paper. It's also probably the world's largest consumer of toilet paper, but they make mostly their own. In the US, we're the second largest manufacturer of toilet paper, and most of it is made within our borders. Maybe some wood chips will come from someplace like Canada, or maybe South America, or maybe some of the Nordic countries, but by and large, the factories are close to major markets. Okay, well, what's the next thing you would think?
So essentially, the supply chain is all about where the key components to create the product are, down to the paper mills or the harvesting of the trees and things like that. Where do those things come from to create toilet paper? That's all part of the supply chain. It's everything from the tree that gets cut down to create the paper used for the toilet paper, all the way down to the final sale of the toilet paper packaged up at Walmart on the shelf. Everything in between, the salesperson selling to Walmart to the packaging company creating the packaging for the toilet paper to be sold at the Walmart, etc. Even the truck going from the manufacturer, the original manufacturer, to the Walmart being the distributor.
Not knowing a lot about toilet paper, but knowing that there's stable demand, you could pretty much guess that factories are going to be sized, understanding that the demand is stable, right? Because I'm not going to put on a lot of capacity if there isn't a season where I have to make a lot more all of a sudden.
So the idea here is that the market for toilet paper and the sales cycle for toilet paper has been very constant. There's only so many people that use so much toilet paper, and so it's very predictable as far as how much toilet paper you need to create, and based on how much toilet paper is actually sold. And so the infrastructure to create the toilet paper was super solid, and they could easily predict exactly how much they needed as far as like production capacity to create the toilet paper to an exact science.
So why were we surprised that stores were running out? And I got a lot of questions after I wrote this piece about, well, why couldn't factories just crank up their production, right? It shouldn't be a surprise because demand is level, and you make your capacity decisions based on that demand. But then the question is, aren't people using less of it because they're not going to offices, schools, hotels, restaurants? Yes, but, okay, and this is where the problem is. First of all, it's not easy to ramp up capacity if your factory has been sized for that stable demand, and then you have to transport it, right? So if you suddenly have to make twice as much, you need twice as many trucks, even though they may be not.
So essentially what he's talking about here is getting at is businesses or stores like Walmart, corporate offices, things like that, have a certain type of ply of toilet paper, and it's super cheap. It's not like that really thick, fancy stuff that we have at home. So during the pandemic, when people were not going to the office and worked from home, the demand for the really soft, nice toilet paper versioning went up. And what he's saying is almost doubled or something like that. For ease of math, I think is what he's using an example for. I'm not sure what the numbers were, but essentially the increase was so great that what he's explaining is that the factories were not set up enough to create that much to make up for that demand. He might talk about this in a little bit next, but what he's going to talk about is that the difference between the toilet paper in the office and the toilet paper at home is so different that they're made in two different manufacturing ways. And you'd think that because people were not going to the offices and using as much toilet paper and things like that, that the problem would just not be a problem at all. But it's the manufacturing process of the supply chain differences between the two types that created the problem.
At a great distance from the stores, you still need more. The next problem is you have to make the right stuff. One of the things about people not going to hotels and restaurants and schools, so we didn't need a lot of toilet paper there. But the institutional toilet paper, as it's referred to, is different from the consumer product. The consumers tend to prefer multi-ply. They like softer toilet paper, so they'll, the manufacturers will have machines set up to make that multi-ply or make it fluffier. Okay, and the institutions, they basically want it as cheap as possible, so it's a very different product. The next problem is you have to get the right packages for the right stores. Imagine if you're buying toilet paper at Walmart. It'd be kind of strange to have it in Safeway or Kroger or Whole Foods packaging. And then not only do you have to have the right product in the right packaging, you have to have the right roll count. Okay, maybe a 1-pack or a 4-pack or an 8-pack, or if people.
So now what he's getting into is packaging and the amounts of toilet paper rolls per pack. So there's that 8-pack, the 12-pack, the 24-pack, the 36-pack, sometimes the 2-pack, sometimes the single 1-pack that's wrapped up in the paper, and so on and so forth. All kinds of different packaging, all kinds of different packaging sizes. There's not one actually manufacturing process to, pack 8 pieces of toilet paper in one, wrap them with labeled branding as to do a 12. You have to have 2 separate processes to do that because it's just 8 pieces. You can't do 8 and then 12. You have to convert the machine or use a separate machine and things like that. So one of the issues with this was that variety that's needed. So this is where he's talking about these different varieties, different packagings, and the branding and that type of thing, as well as the amount of toilet papers per package. There's almost too much variety in the market that the pandemic version of the market that came along could not handle. So this is where he's going with that.
You saw people buying these 36 roll packs at Costco. You have all this different variety. So our real problem was excessive variety. And we've seen this during the pandemic with other products as well. If you walked into the store, sometimes the store had too much of this flavor, not enough of this. So what's the cause of this problem? Well, the cause is that we as consumers have come to expect a lot of variety. Stores talk about stock keeping units, SKUs. So we talk about how many SKUs of toilet paper do I need to have in a grocery store? And I was talking to one person who was in the supply chain who said, well, there are almost 60 SKUs that they had to deal with. That means 60 different brands, packages sizes, roll counts. And, this is a problem that is actually very common in the grocery store today. I don't know if you've looked.
So when he says SKUs, it's essentially, think of it as a barcode. A barcode is tied to a product, and so on and so forth. So 60 different product types. So 60 different toilet paper types. So let's say 10 8-packs of Angel Soft, 10 8-packs of brand X, 10 packs of brand Y, all the way to 60. 10 brands of you kind of each SKU is essentially a barcode for a different product, just in case you guys didn't catch that.
Looked at the toothpaste shelves lately, or any of the personal care products, where you have not only a wealth of brands, large variety of different sizes, and a lot of different choice. Well, choice is nice, but it comes with a cost. The retailers have to forecast which one of these SKUs are going to sell, how many, how fast. Then on top of that, as we go back in the supply chain, manufacturers have to forecast which ones the retailers are going to order. And guess what? The likelihood of everybody getting all those forecasts correct is nil. So when we have a crisis like what we've been through, it kind of lowers the water level and exposes all the rocks, like all the forecasting errors, the difficulties of forecasting correctly. Now, you could say if everybody in the country only used one type of toilet paper in one type of package, in one brand, and it was the same in hotels and schools as we use it at home, we might not have seen these shortages because people could quickly reallocate those supplies.
So this kind of prefaces a problem with choice. And so what does that mean for the market in the future if you have less resources to create more choice in the market? Well, less choice. So this is something maybe to keep in mind or look out for in the future. How much choice we might have down the road, depending on resource shortage, employee shortages, personnel shortages, and things like that in our society.
But how much fun would life be like that? Okay,
Yep.
so now you've had your first lesson on supply chain. And as you can see, you really didn't need to know a whole lot to make sense of it. That's why I wrote this article on toilet paper, and now people think I'm the world's expert on toilet paper.
All right, so hopefully that helps kind of put this into context here. What I'm going to do is actually go through this lecture slide by slide. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, here we go. All right. All right, so supply chain management, there's a couple slides that I have called review, but they're not really a review to you all. Since this is a separate semester here, we're just we'll roll with it. Let's see, here we go. Okay. All right, so supply chain management. So the flow of demand refers to supply chain models that either start from the manufacturer or from the customer. Okay, so these are called push-pull. So that's regarding demand. So push, the flow of demand known as push, it's during the mass production area, the manufacturers that produce standardized products that were pushed down through market channels to consumers who were then convinced to buy whatever was produced. So a quantity was produced, and then that was sold to the customers, kind of like your typical, what you would imagine. Then there's that pull flow of demand. And then so this refers to a supply chain model that focuses on how customers are determining products and services in the marketplace and partnerships with other members of the supply chain to bring the value to the customer. So essentially, it's based on customer demand rather than manufacturer supply. Okay, so that's kind of the differences between push and pull. Now, another aspect of supply chain management is supply chain orientation. So this is the implementation of a systems thinking approach to management practices. It is an approach that leading supply chain oriented firms use. Okay, so that is supply chain orientation. And here are some of the qualities that are included in this supply chain orientation. These are the things that these companies are actually, or these systems of thinking, as they're calling them, work together to create for the end customer experience. So one is credibility. So having the capability to deliver on the promises that they make. So all of these different entities within the supply chain have a focused goal on credibility as far as their orientation. Also, another one is called benevolence. They're all willing to accept short-term risks on behalf of others. So they all agree that they will participate together and work together to accept any short-term risks within and amongst each other. They're also cooperative, so all these different organizations within the supply chain work together rather than against each other. So So there's no real market competition between companies that have agreements with it that are part of the same supply chain. There's also support of top managers. So management is visionary, balancing short-term benefits with long-term success. So top managers within each organization are aligned as far as their goals, okay, both short-term and long-term. And then effectiveness is another quality in which each organization is effective at directing and conducting the supply chain activity. And there's also a lot of transparency between the processes that each company within the supply chain use to fulfill these goals of the supply chain. Then there's also another aspect of supply chain management, and we're calling this supply chain integration. This occurs when multiple firms or their functional areas in a supply chain coordinate their business processes, so they are linked to one another. So this integration is kind of like more of that transparency aspect that I kind of mentioned just a moment ago, where the multiple firms are actually going to coordinate and be transparent with their process in another. So a marketing team within one organization within the supply chain will coordinate and share all of their ideas with the marketing team of the other, the sales team, and vice versa, the production team, the refund, the returns process, and etc. And we're going to go through all those different aspects here in a minute. Okay. So supply chain integration is a philosophy that says that areas charged with creating customer demand, such as marketing, sales, research, and development, are synchronized with the parts of the business charged with fulfilling demand, purchasing, manufacturing, and logistics. So customer demand and fulfillment of orders are both working together and synchronized. This tight level of integration between these areas of an organization gains the company efficiencies from ordering by using only materials that lead directly to the sale. That's internal integration. So that's really just a style of all of these different teams working together internally. And then now the external integration is kind of the more interesting part. This is where the organizations themselves work within other organizations to accomplish a common mission within the supply chain. So external integration, this next bullet here, is the philosophy born out of the need for multiple companies to develop integrations with one another within a supply chain to accomplish a common mission. Now, here we have 5 different aspects of the external integration in the supply chain of these multiple companies. So the one is the relationship integration. Now, this is the ability of 2 or more companies to develop social connections that serve to guide their interaction when working together. This includes ways they will collaborate on activities or projects through an agreed upon framework. So these relationships between the companies are all agreed upon and worked together. There's formal social interactions and things like that. That all these organizations have agreements with each other to ensure that the supply chain is strong and manageable. Now there's also measurement integration. That's next here. This is the idea that performance assessments should be transparent between the organizations, and also partnering companies should assess the performance of the entire supply chain while holding each firm accountable for achieving its own goals. So whatever results and measurements that I have in my piece of the supply chain, or my role within the supply chain, is then shared with other companies and vice versa, as well as the ultimate the overall results of the product performance are measured and communicated to all the different organizations that are involved in the supply chain. So more transparency there. Technology and planning integration. This is the creation and maintenance of IT systems that connect managers across firms in a supply chain for secure information exchange. So the idea here is that communications channels, networking channels, and things like that within with all companies within the supply chain will be centralized in one location so that it could all work seamlessly together in both the production, if needed, ordering and planning and things like that. So if you think of like a unique server from supply chain server and all these different companies work off of that single server. And there's also material and service supplier integration. This requires firms to seamlessly link each other to outsiders that provide goods and services to streamline work processes and provide high quality customer experiences. Okay, so each firm then individually, they create a piece for the supply chain, but they might have vendors as well that spread out. And so the idea here is that these players in the supply chain need to share contacts, the contacts that they have to provide the tools necessary to create their piece of the supply chain to the rest of the components, rest of the companies and players in the supply chain. So again, complete transparency of where they're getting their materials and things of that nature. So where are they getting the trees from? Where are they getting the copper from, or different kind of materials such as that. Next is customer integration. So firms agree to assess their own capabilities and then match them to customers whose desires they can meet and who offer long enough sales potential. Okay, let's go. Okay, so key processes to supply chain management here. Basically, it starts with the design, then the manufacturing, then the shipping, then the installation. So in review, supply chain management is when companies and their functional areas such as marketing, research, and development, so that's during the design manufacturing part, as you recall when we talked about product marketing earlier and product development in our past lectures. Are integrated within themselves and across linked firms. So marketing, research, and development and production all integrated. And then this is all communicated across all firms in the supply chain. All of this works because business processes are designed in such a way to work together between teams within an organization and teams outside of the organization within their respective supply chain. So if you think about like I mentioned earlier, supply chains within an organization that is part of a bigger supply chain. Okay, so those raw materials, whatever is necessary, the glues, the tapes, the package materials, the inks, all that stuff, they all come from suppliers that go into like the packaging company that is part of that supply chain. Let's just say. Okay, so 8 processes of supply chain management. Okay, so these are all aspects of the supply chain, kind of from beginning to end. So first we have customer relationship management. So high level here, what the managers focus on are enabling companies to prioritize their marketing focus on different customer groups based on the captured data. So as people sell things, as these organizations sell things, they're capturing data on the customers, demographic data, things like that, age data, region, prices, place, distributors that the product got sold at, things of that nature. All that data is actually getting stored and then shared with everyone in the supply chain. This helps with categorizing prospective customers that are not customers currently, and then past and current customers as well. Okay, so that's customer relationship management. Customer service management. So this enables companies to ensure that existing customer relationships remain strong. So customer relationship different from customer service. Customer relationship is more about sales and more about demographic targeting and marketing. Customer service is more about working with the existing customers and making sure those relationships remain strong. So this helps with the retention of customers. So this is keeping the existing customers rather than attracting the new customers, where the customer relationship management comes in, and then creating marketing profiles and marketing to those customers. Okay, demand management. This enables companies to anticipate customer requirements at each level in order to align supply and demand throughout the supply chain. So really, demand management is measuring and predicting what the demand might be. This is where a big failure in the pandemic and toilet paper issue came into play. That things happen so fast that demand managers could not predict what was going to come fast enough to react. So number 4, order fulfillment. This enables companies to generate, fill, deliver, and provide service for customer orders. Okay, pretty self-explanatory there. Number 5, manufacturing flow management. So this enables companies to understand the supply chain has the resources to manufacture with flexibility and move products through the multi-stage production process. So something as basic as toilet paper, you're going to have to manufacture the paper itself, right? You're going to have to do like the multiple plies or the single plies or what have you. You're going to have to create like the double rolls, the single rolls. So all of these different component pieces then will then come together. So that's the that is the manufacturing flow management there. Multi-stage production aspects. So manufacturing flow management. Next, supplier relationship management. This enables strong supplier relationships with the company so that manufacturing flow management process runs smoothly. So think of gold supply for jewelry manufacturers, things like that, making sure that the relationships are strong between the different suppliers to create the piece of jewelry, the toilet paper, the etc. Next is product development and commercialization. These are activities that facilitate the joint development of new products. Okay, so perhaps a new product might need to take on another player in the supply chain or expand the capabilities of an existing player in the supply chain. These are activities that facilitate the development of that. So if it's a new player in the supply chain, then all of the others need to be filled in on those processes and aware, and there needs to be like an onboarding process. If one is expanded, one player expands its capabilities, all areas of the supply chain need to be privy to that as well. And then finally is the returns management, which enables companies to have a process that deals with the customer returns by creating a reverse flow of goods in the supply chain. So not only it goes from beginning to end, it goes from end to the beginning again. So starting with 1, customer relationship management. This enables companies to prioritize their marketing focus on different customer groups based on captured data. This also helps with categorizing prospective customers that are not customers and past and current customers alike. Kind of a little bit of a review there. We call customer relationship management CRM, and there's a lot of CRM systems that marketing really works closely with the marketing teams and organizations that I've been a part of. So customer relationship management, or CRM, we create, there are systems out there such as Salesforce is the most popular, but there's many other variations at different price points that have different capabilities, etc. But essentially, what does the CRM process include? It includes customer segmentation, so you can capture information like age, past purchase history, past call logs, purchasing information. So sometimes these are input manually, sometimes they're automatically input based on a customer's input in the survey or on a website prior to a purchase, and then they can be tracked through the purchasing process, and all that information is saved in the customer relationship management CRM system. I have an example. Let's say Petco. Petco has a built-in campaign in their customer relationship management system that gets triggered when a new customer purchases a pet. So essentially, you're talking about an auto-generated system based on an action that a customer does for Petco, and this action is purchase of the pet. So a customer purchases a pet. So step 2, the new owners receive a direct mail piece with a pet guide designed specifically for the breed purchased. So this could all be automated. This doesn't have to be like a person or a designer creating this on the fly. These are all pre-developed direct mail pieces with a pet guide for every single different pet that Petco sells. Okay. And then that is just triggered and it's automatically sent, printed and sent on demand. And then usually it has the person's name and information and things like that. Even the address and labels and stuff are all pre-printed, okay, and automated. The only thing the designer would do is create like the styles and things like that of the piece. Even the photos could be like auto-generated and things of that nature. So then next, 2 weeks later, after that direct mail piece is sent, an email is sent out to remind the customer to set up an appointment with Shots. So really the whole the life process of the pet is actually mapped out and automated in this system. So again, it seems like a very custom tailored experience for the customer. But this is all automated, built-in campaign based on a CRM. Step 4, so there's 2 avenues of step 4. There's step 4A and step 4B. So after the email is sent to remind them of the shots, if the step 4A, if the customer did not get the shots done at Petco, a text would be sent out reading, "Have you scheduled your appointment yet? If not, check this out at Petco to schedule." Next, now, if they do decide to get that shot and that information is captured in the Petco CRM system, then a direct mail piece would be sent saying, "We were so happy to see a dog name here." So they would know the dog's name based on the appointment created, and then they would visit Petco and then get that shot. We hope to see you soon. Here's a coupon for X dollars off of your next order. So that kind of speaks to the customer retention aspect of the supply chain. The supply chain here. So that's kind of how the CRM system works in a supply chain for Petco. It's just like one small example. You could think of a billion others, probably, maybe not a billion, maybe several million, realistically. Okay. So then there's customer service management. Okay, so this enables companies to ensure that existing customer relationships remain strong. And this also helps with the retention of customers. So what does the CSM process include? Quick responses to negative customer feedback. So negative reviews on Amazon, let's just say, negative phone calls to the business that of customer complaints and things like that. Not having a person on the other end of the line that is able to help. Not having a phone number call. These are all aspects of the customer service management system that might create issues. And if one person in one player in the supply chain is falling short in this customer service management aspect of the supply chain, then the others might be concerned about that and that might be a violation of an agreement between all the organizations, which there are written agreements for these things. It also includes multi-company response systems to customer complaints. So things like UPS quickly shipping returns as expected for Amazon orders that might be damaged. So you order something from Amazon, the agreements that they have between Amazon and UPS says that if there are any things that need to be returned because of damages, UPS is making sure that the products don't go to the customer that are ordered from Amazon with damage. And if they are, they have a very efficient system of getting that content back to Amazon and vice versa. And Amazon and UPS will have to have an agreed upon process for that. And then also an agreement to guarantee that that this will happen for every customer that has an issue with the product. the customer service management process facilitates touch points between buyer and seller throughout the life cycle of ownership of the product. So if you think you bought a new car, you will receive direct mail reminders on when it's time to get your next oil change every 3 months. So very similar to the CRM piece. CRM, customer relationship management, kind of keeps the data and things like that and creates the marketing content, but also it does serve some of this customer service management process, because if they are an existing customer, then customer service management is designed to actually keep that customer satisfied while they still have them. So with this example of the new car, they're going to get reminders every 3 months and things of that nature via direct mail or any kind of other marketing aspect, marketing channel or tactic. Demand management. So this enables companies to anticipate customer requirements at each level in order to align supply and demand throughout the supply chain. So the activities of demand management include collecting customer data, forecasting future demand, sales and operations planning, a series of meetings where customer demand forecasts and data on customers is shared between several teams within an organization. So these are just planned out operations and planning meetings. Business teams, marketing and sales will work with production teams, procurement, production, and logistics to establish collaborative ways to minimize waste and satisfy customers. So there's constant communication between marketing and sales and procurement and production to say, hey, we're not selling enough of this product, so we want to probably slow down the production of these because they're not selling so much, or we're selling too much of this product and we need to increase production for them. So there's that internal communication structure established there. So that's all part of the sales and operations planning piece. Minimize cost of serving variable customers as well, right? So you don't want to overproduce or underproduce. You want to make sure that you're being as efficient as possible. So the goal is also to satisfy in the most efficient way possible. Order fulfillment. This enables companies to generate, fill, deliver, and provide service for customer orders. So what does this order fulfillment process do? It reduces the order cycle time. So the time between the order and the customer receipt, this is kind of what it's measuring here, while also ensuring what the customer receives is exactly what they want. So order fulfillment, we're tracking the time between the production and the order and the customer receipt, not the production, the order itself and the customer receipt. And ensuring that the accuracy and quality of that order is where it needs to be. The order fulfillment process also is responsible for shorter lead times in the order cycle and allow for businesses to carry reduced inventories and free up cash that they can use on other projects to avoid any costly waste. So again, making sure that there's communication channel between production there. So order fulfillment will need to be doing that to make sure that there is no waste, especially with products that could spoil, let's just say, like food products or things of that nature, and so on and so forth. The entire subsidiary businesses have been created from the needs of companies of all sizes to practice the order fulfillment process to the best of the ability. So an example would be FedEx creating a subsidiary called FedEx Fulfillment to help small and medium-sized companies fulfill orders from multiple channels with streamlined efficiency. So FedEx creating FedEx Fulfillment is specifically designed for small and medium-sized businesses. And this is part of this fulfillment aspect here. And that includes shipping. That's like shipping as well, of course, with FedEx. So the next aspect is manufacturing flow management. This enables companies to understand that the supply chain has the resources to manufacture with flexibility and move products through a multi-stage production process. So how it works is it creates flexible agreements with suppliers and shippers so that unexpected demand bursts can be accommodated without disruptions to customer service or satisfaction. It also leverages multiple members of the supply chain to improve output quality, delivery speed, and flexibility. Retrofitting a printing press to lay down computer part chips, for example. Okay, so if there's something, if a player within the supply chain has the capability to do something on the fly that might be unexpected, that's needed in the market, they are actually responsible per this manufacturing flow management aspect of the supply chain agreement to perform that duty. By virtue of a product being produced, one of two strategies are utilized in this process. There's lean or agile. So lean product production refers to products that are built before the demand occurs. So that's kind of like that push aspect that we talked about in the opening here. And then agile are products that are built in response to the customer request. That's more of the pull product, the pull strategy. So seems kind of redundant, actually. They both pretty much mean the same thing from a production standpoint. Sometimes modular parts are used in manufacturing where redundant parts are used across different product models. For example, in an airplane, by using redundant parts, a company can switch from producing one type of aircraft to another. So that's just kind of an example of modular parts, and there's also true for vehicles as well. You know, the same type of motor might be used in multiple models of a specific vehicle or multiple trims, etc. Supplier relationship management. This enables strong supplier relationships with the company so that the manufacturing flow management process runs smoothly. So it established a structural support for developing and maintaining relationships with suppliers. So you're a player in the supply chain management process now. You're going to need to have multiple suppliers to produce your piece of the component that is part of the bigger product that all the other organizations within the supply chain are involved with. So you're going to have to maintain those relationships, and you're responsible for that, and you're held responsible for that by all of the organizations included in the supply chain. So just like the customer relationship management process, this maintains profiles and relationships with suppliers. So mergers can occur if these supplier relationships become that much more critical. Okay, so yeah, if that component becomes more critical, then there might be mergers that happen to ensure that that there is alignment and consistency there. Product development and commercialization, activities that facilitate the joint development of new products. So an example of this would be the success of the iPhone. Yeah. The success of the iPhone requiring multiple suppliers of chips, glass, aluminum, etc., to be in complete coordination to launch a new product that is of the manufacturer's brand promise of quality. New product development is bolstered by this process because many companies are experts in their given areas, so that level of expertise is injected into the product development process. We talked about how cross-functional teams are used to provide input in a new product development process earlier. So new product testing, so that's improved because many companies in the supply chain are able to test materials that are component parts of the new product in a standardized way specific to the industry and manufacturing expertise. So that's a very strong benefit of the supply chain there as far as testing is concerned. And a new product launch is actually improved. This process is improved because many partners in the product development understand the features and benefits of each component of the new product by virtue of their individual areas of expertise for their contributions This information could be relayed to the customer via advertising, promotions, and targeted marketing messages. So each individual player then in the supply chain will have an area of expertise of a particular piece of that product that they produce. And then so that information can then be shared with the organization responsible for the advertising and marketing. So those little bits of data can be included in advertising advertising and marketing, etc. Materials, sales materials, sales talking points, and things of that nature. Additionally, distributors and logistics companies need to get products to market on time for the new product launch, and distributors and retailers may also want to run their own local promotions for the product launch. And finally, returns management. So this enables companies to have a process that deals with customer returns by creating a reverse flow of the goods in the supply chain. So this process reduces returns related costs to the company and maximize value of returned assets to the firms in the supply chain. So buyback programs are also included here. So if you think about Apple's recycling program to buy back the iPhones, those parts are used to build other products. So that's part of the supply chain. That's a good example of that. So why is it a good process in handling returns? Handling returns then is in a hassle-free way, an organized way, creates a positive image and gives the company an additional opportunity to please the customer. Customers who have a positive experience with returns can become confident buyers in the future and are willing to reorder again and again and again. If you think about Amazon, they do this, of course, very well, and it also improves customer retention, making it so easy to return and order. It's just, it creates essentially a brand loyalty there. This process also helps recognize weaknesses in product design and areas for potential improvement through the direct customer feedback that initiates the process. So in the event of a customer return, then the customer might have a recommendation of how to make the product better that during the production process was not thought of. And then so that could trigger then some a new product development. All right. So that's what I have for you all today. We will actually go into more supply chain stuff next time, but I didn't want to overwhelm and because it's a lot to take in actually. So we're going to go into other aspects of the supply chain later as well. So of course, if you have questions, email me. If not, just keep on doing what you're doing. Thanks, everybody.